Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Paradise Season 1 review. This is Season 1, Episode 5, In the Palaces of Crowned Kings. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we talk about this. My first initial thoughts after watching this to go back to take notes. Where's the notebook? Where is the notebook? He took all those notes, and I do not know where the notebook went. That's my first thing. Second thing, I felt badly for Cal in this episode because this is yet another example of the tragedy of it all. Because this man really was, for most of his life, having his strings pulled by other people. We learned that this man never had a life of his own, that his father is rich and a jerk and in on a lot of what has happened on Paradise. My next thought, you think that this place that has all this technology, this place that can plant recording devices and cameras all over the place and have the dome create weather patterns and all these other things, this place that has what seems like an accounting system on your wrist would also be a place where a tablet that contains the type of information that may possibly be on this tablet, you would think that they would be smart enough to implant something within that tablet that could track it. I don't understand why that wasn't thought of. All these secrets, all these recordings, and this scan with your hand technology, and you didn't put a tracker on the device? Interesting. But enough of me. Let's go ahead and get into this. As usual, if there's something that I leave out and you want to talk about it, feel free to put it down below. Hopefully, StreamYard doesn't play me by buffering and have me sounding distorted, because there were a lot of gems that were dropped in this episode. So the episode begins with clips of what's going on the planet's surface while Cal's father Kane is reading this poem that we hear throughout the episode at different parts, right? And the poem really has a lot to do with what has happened to them in the situation that they're in, right? So we are being shown that at this current time, the Washington Monument is almost completely underwater and the world is a barren place as we flash back to Cal and his father Kane, and it is 1997. So it's 1997. They discuss Tiger Woods. His father admires him, saying that Tiger's dad did a great job. Very much so shows the mindset of this man, that you're putting it all on Tiger's dad. Not to say that he didn't have an influence, but according to Kane, this was all Tiger's dad. So Cal points out that, Tiger had natural talent too, that it wasn't just his father. And Daddy Wobucks isn't trying to hear that, okay? So they discuss work because his father's been checking up on him. And Cal explains that at this point, what he wants to do is he wants to leave the oil business and he would love to be able to teach high school. There's immediate tension in this as Kane does not agree with it, and he forcefully tells him no, telling him that will happen over his dead, corroded body. Let's not act like educators aren't important, because they are. And what's crazier about this is we later find out that Cal's mother was an English teacher. So you would think he would be proud of his son for wanting to pursue something in this lane, but no, it's not good enough for this man. Instead, he is told by his father that his next move will be politics, because the men in his family live big lives and do big things. This is a grown man who we learn is in his 40s, probably at the time of this discussion. And you're trying to tell him what he should and shouldn't do? Cain says the family name alone would get a horse with a speech impediment elected. I laughed at that a little bit because I see what the writers did with that one. Cal attempts to have a say, but Cain lets him know that he'll drag him into politics, kicking and screaming if he has to. He says, "You'll thank me one day, and if you don't, your future children will." Interesting thing to say because this is his future child. Your future children will. Unlike you, they might just be grateful for that Bradford name. This is the president's son sitting at the desk as he's getting drunk in current day, an hour before his father's funeral. So that Bradford name carried more weight and did more harm in some instances than I think that his grandfather thought it would. Xavier texts Billy, letting him know that he wants to meet at the funeral so that they can finish their conversation. We know that that's not about to happen because Billy is gone. So Xavier is wondering why Billy isn't answering his text, especially with the conversation that they had the previous night, the way that it ended. Like, X, I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Tonight, just let me be Uncle Billy. Very much so. This is the end of it all. I probably won't be here tomorrow type of sounding. I'm going to talk to you when I can type of situation. Right? So he is getting ready, trying to leave out. He talks to his daughter and he's like, "Where's your brother?" "Oh, I know exactly where he is." And that is when we see this. James is playing with the neighbor, Carl, and his dog, Lucy. Isn't she a cutie? I kind of cut her off in this image. I should have raised this up a little bit. But she is a little cutie patootie. This is when we learned that one of the reasons why we haven't seen dogs, I know Tulips and Cat mentioned that we don't really see any pets and stuff being walked, is because pets are contraband. They're banned. The people of paradise are not supposed to have any pets. I said that alone should let you know that Sinatra is a monster, because who would want to keep our fur babies and our feathered babies away? Like, they bring joy. I don't understand that. So Carl, we find out, works in the tower that controls the fake weather. Xavier reminds him to be careful because he knows he's not supposed to have that dog there. And there's no telling where cameras are hidden. So Carl's like, "You know what, Xavier, I owe you one. Thank you." I said, there's a reason why we heard that whole conversation. We'll get to it later. So we are here where it is time for the funeral. And we are reminded that even things like the way the weather appears to be is monitored by the tower, because a call is made to make the clouds cover more, to make it appears it's a more somber day, right? Jeremy is at the top of the podium and he's talking about his father as the crowd listens on. Interesting that the father isn't next to the ex-wife, whatever she is. No, they were still married, his wife, but instead he's next to Sinatra. They have a very, very close relationship, and I want to know if something more than money binds them. So he's talking about how for the last few weeks his father has been unraveling, about him running around in his bathrobe. He says, the last days were rough. And we flash to a few days ago, well, actually, the last day of President Cal's life. Him and his son were not getting along. His father is trying to watch movies with him while Jeremy is mad at him, talking about the fact that at 42 he decided to be president, and about his drinking, and how his father is playing virtual golf while a bunch of billionaires are sticking their hand up his butt to make his mouth move. Once again, saying that he's being puppeted. All this is going on. Voices are raised when Cain walks into the house, and with him is Billy. And he's in there trying to get to his study. He's followed by Billy, who's trying to stop him because he's not supposed to be out of the guest house. He's supposed to be in his guest house, but he is over here thinking that his son is in his house. So due to his dementia, he is thinking that Jeremy is Cal. And he keeps on calling Billy Sniper, which is confusing the president because he's like, his name is Agent Billy. He says, the father does, you were always weak. That's why the sniper had to do it. And Cal is looking like, what is he talking about? What is all this sniper talk? Why are you saying the sniper had to do it? The sniper this, the sniper that? What are you talking about? He says, you thought that they were all lost at sea, those 4. And they did it right. Right under your nose, too. You were never the sharpest tool in the shed, kid. He is referring to the explorers. He is talking about the 4 people that were sent to the surface to find out whether or not there was still an inhabitable earth, right? And their lives were lost due to the sniper, who at that point we know, but the president doesn't know, that it's Billy, right? So Cal doesn't know what his father's talking about. Jeremy says, as his father walks off because he got the book that he needed, that you never fought back. You knew what was coming and you did nothing, which makes you complicit. It does. It makes him complicit. And that is the juxtaposition that he was in, because he was aware of certain things, but we're learning more and more, especially in this episode, that the president really didn't know a lot. And I'm wondering exactly what he was told, because I think that he really didn't understand what he was getting himself into. So the final words that he hears from his son are, I wish you died with the rest of the world. And he leaves. Just reminding us of how rough his last day was. So we get back to current day. The funeral is over. After the funeral, the subject of Billy comes up. And Xavier is talking out to Jane. And he's like, look, talking to Jane, he's like, I haven't been able to get in contact with Billy. I've been hitting him up all morning and he hasn't responded. And Jane's like, yeah, I haven't been able to reach him either. You know, I don't know what's going on. I'm concerned too. And just as they're about to leave, Robinson tells Xavier she needs a quick word, and she dismisses Jane. All of them treat Jane like she's an afterthought, but Jane is a lot higher on the pecking order than they get. That pecking order. She's a lot higher on the podium, than they get. They don't realize that she's in Sinatra's pocket. So she tells Xavier that she submitted the DNA samples and that they never arrived to the lab. And he's looking at her like, okay, what? She goes, no, they never arrived to the lab. They didn't get them. She feels like the only person with the type of power to prevent those samples from getting looked at would be Sinatra. So she now suspects that Sinatra is involved, and she only trusts Xavier, while Xavier doesn't really trust her. So we flash back to Cal and Agent Robertson, and he lets her know that his father contributed money and him to this world. We get to see another side of the both of them in this. She actually came across as softer. She didn't get on my nerves too much in this because she loves him. While laying in bed, he asks her if his father has a nickname for her, because his father has a nickname for a lot of people. And she's like, no, if he calls me anything, it's in a condescending tone and it's like sweetheart or darling. He's like, well, he calls Agent Pace Sniper. She hears that, and rather than wondering why he calls him that, she's thinking about how much she misses the weight of the gun. Because as I said before, most of them walk around with tasers because they think that there are no guns down there. So Cal tells her that there is no way that people this powerful would leave themselves defenseless. She wants to know more because she is supposed to be the head here, and she doesn't even know that this is the case, that this situation is here where the guy that she loves knows more about what's going on there than she does, but he can't tell her. He can't. So he makes the mistake of changing the subject to their illicit affair, which hurts her because she says for her, it's more than that. And he's like, look, I can't do this right now, which he can't because he has a lot of stuff going on. So we're back, right? And they go to check on Billy. Ugh. I hate Jane just about as much as I hate Sinatra at this point. Billy isn't answering the door. Xavier is calling his name. She's calling his name. And Xavier kicks the door in. And it's only to Xavier's surprise because Jane already knows that Billy is dead. Y'all, this messed me up. It messed me up because she's doing a great job acting here. She's doing a great job being so hurt and distraught and all these other things, right? Shaking and trembling as Xavier is checking the pulse. She's doing her best acting, laying on top of his body, and she's crying and saying all this stuff. And Xavier is visibly hurt. The actors are acting. Look at his eyes. Look at his face. He's visibly hurt as he struggles to let the Secret Services or whomever he was on the phone with know that Agent Billy Pace is down. He's dead. The next thing you know, we see their version of a coroner arrive. Jane does a great job of acting as if she's hurt, and everyone feels sorry for her, and she's making sure she sows the seeds that this was probably a suicide based on her saying how he was talking and the way he was acting. I don't think that Xavier has a clue. So we flash back to the day of Cal's death. This is when it gets good because Cal is by himself. He's drinking and he keeps on replaying the words that his father said, like sniper and lost at sea, and they did it under your nose. So he goes to his closet, goes in his safe, punches in the code, retrieves the tablet from the black box, and we see him open the tablet with his right hand. So he's clicking the various things on the tablet, not sure exactly what he's looking for, when he realizes that he doesn't have access to reports from the mission that they had to the surface. He's the president. The president should have access. So he's like, wait a second, I'm the president. I'm supposed to have access to everything. What's going on here? So he walks around a little bit. And even though at times his father thinks he's stupid, he's really not, because he goes into the study where his father is sleeping. He takes off his father's glasses, really gentle with him, puts them down beside him, and then he takes his father's hand and he places it on the tablet for it to be scanned. And what do you know? But an access granted. So his father, who is just the father of the president, who also has dementia, has higher security clearance than the actual so-called president, reiterating that there's a lot that he does not know. So Cal is reading and he's watching and he's seeing clips that are extremely disturbing, right? You hear, although radiation levels are high at the surface, that it's okay. Because the team met a woman who has survived doomsday and they want to bring her back to paradise. Sinatra is heard saying that she's going to talk to the team and go from there. So my question is, the people that we see in the boardroom all the time, are those just a bunch of billionaires? Like, who are the billionaires? Who are the people that put money into this situation? Because I wonder how many of them know about this. Billy reports that he has the team in sight, the team and their survivors. And Sinatra's like, you know what to do. And she orders him to kill them all. All of them. Next thing you know, we see the president and he's making notes and he's writing coordinates and he's transposing the things that he heard in a notebook. My question is, where is that notebook? Where? Because it literally says verbatim, transcripts of surface expedition classified, with what people are saying, with coordinates and all these other things. He even drew out like little mountains and stuff on the paper. So there's a lot of detail that he put in this book. I want to know, where's the book? He then heads to the public library. So we're told all this stuff about how the last day he was roaming around in his robe and he was drinking and all these other things. But he had a lot going on because he was trying to figure out stuff. And little by little, he was being given clues and he was doing the research necessary to get to the bottom of this. I originally thought that the public library was just the school library, but apparently it's the public library. And we're shown this man again. I don't know why they keep showing us this librarian. And I thought, okay, did he leave the notebook in the library? But when he was walking, I don't recall seeing him with a notebook. It's something about this librarian. And it might be because of Tulips and Cats saying something about it. It was weird that they showed us him in the scene. The way that they did, but I'm paying attention to him every time I see him, and I just don't know. I'm looking at all the people this time around that don't seem like they're that guilty, especially with the way that this thing ended, because we spend so much time being distracted by the writers, looking at the obvious bad guys, that we're forgetting that a lot of times it's the people that you'll least expect, right? So he is in the bathrobe and he's asking the librarian, that seems a little starstruck, if he can make a mixtape. Like, do they have the stuff to make a mixtape? And the librarian's like, yeah. So he goes through the library as he's listening to different songs, and he is burning them on this CD to compile the perfect CD for his son, which we know is something that he likes to do. Based in 1997, when he was in the car on the way to see his dad, one of the things that he told the guy that was driving him is he could keep the CD. He likes to burn CDs. So here he is, something that he enjoys doing, trying to leave something for his son. After he's done, he writes for Jeremy on the CD. Then he heads over to Gabriella, right? Says to her, we got patient confidentiality, right? Does that still apply down here? She's like, yeah. He says, okay. If something happens to me and for some reason we can't talk, you're going to want to look into someone, right? The trick that she did, the say yes, she learned that from him, because rather than saying the person that she wanted to look into, he wrote Billy Pace down on the palm of his hand. He then says, Xavier is the only person he really trusts. You're going to want to discuss it with him if anything should happen. I said, wow. As upset as Xavier was with him, as bad as things got with them before they came to this place, he trusted Xavier because he knew that Xavier was a man of his word, that he was going to, look after him. It just makes me feel bad once again for him, because he was in too deep, and Xavier too talked nasty to him the last night that he was alive. So he goes home, he works out, he makes homemade pasta, and he texts his son Jeremy. And as you can see, the text says, making dinner tonight and working on something you'll want to hear about. Never too late to fight back, right? Which is sad, because Jeremy never got a chance to hear what was on his father's heart, and his father was probably going to let him know about what he discovered. My question is, can they read text messages? because y'all are putting a lot of things on this technology that I would think if they can alert all of you on your Fitbit about a funeral and a meeting and things of that nature, that they could probably tap into those phones too. So we then see the other side of the clip that we got in episode 1, that meeting that he had where Sinatra and Cal are on the patio having a meeting, saying with her saying it's nice to see you out of your robe. There was something a little funky about her saying it's nice to see you out of your robe. Makes me wonder if she was getting a report on him or if she actually saw him out of his robe. He looks at her and he says, I know what you did, Samantha. I accessed the files about the expedition. Now, normal people would, turn red in the face, be a little flushed, pause. Not Sinatra. She is completely unfazed by his knowledge of what really happened. She says very coldly, a decision had to be made and I made it. Like what you gonna do? Cal is upset. He says, to be a murderer? He says people need to know the truth. And I'm going to tell everyone the truth. Meanwhile, as he's saying this, Sinatra seems like she's amused. She says, tell him. Say it. I want to see what it looks like when you have balls, sir. Y'all. The way it would have took every last one of them Secret Service men to come down and get me off of her butt for talking to me like that, it would have been a problem. But it just goes to show you, Sinatra has absolutely no respect for Cal. We thought that she did. She said he was her friend and all that other stuff, but she don't care about that man. So all this is going on. Xavier can't hear what is being said, but he can get the energy that something is going on based on the way that the president looks. So he approaches because he knows how to do his job. And Cal tells him everything is fine, but it isn't. Despite all of this, in my opinion, despite seeing this, the way that she talked to him and all that other stuff, y'all tell me what you think. I still don't think it's Sinatra. I don't. And I hate it because I think that Sinatra very much so is a murderer, but I don't think that she did this. I don't. We go to the bar. Robinson and Xavier meet at the bar. I don't know if it was planned or if they just happened to be there, if she knew where he was or what, but they're at the bar. And she lets him know that Billy was killed by a lethal dose of fentanyl. And the coroner is saying nobody would take that amount for recreational use. So Jane was successful and is being ruled as a suicide. Xavier explains that Billy was like a little brother to him, that he knew something about her and he was trying to tell him. He immediately says that it has to be her. And Robinson seems like she agrees. But which her are you talking about, you guys? Because it's not just one, it's two. Jane had something to do with his death too. She was the main person to do it under orders of Sinatra, but she did it. So as he's saying that Billy was like his little brother, she says that she was in love with Cal. And they talk about how hard it is going to be to take Sinatra down, especially without weapons. And that's when Robinson remembers there are weapons and I know how to get them. I said, oh, all righty then. We go to Presley and she went to go check on Jeremy, who is grieving his father and he's drinking. You complain about your father's drinking, but here you are doing the same thing. He is in this simulator golf room that his father wanted them to play golf in. He talks about, this is one of the things that his dad wanted to do on the last day and how awful he was to him. and he turns it on for her to see what it looks like, and he puts up an image of a beautiful tropical looking golf course, and the air is blowing to make it feel like wind, and there's sounds of birds and all that other stuff, and they're about to kiss when Kane busts into the room. Once again, he's still thinking that Jeremy is Cal, and he claims to know Presley because he thinks he's Agent Robertson. She's Agent Robinson, or does he? He grabs her by the arm. Jeremy gets him to let her go, and then we're back to the night of his death. Jeremy did not come to dinner. We know he was supposed to come. He didn't come, right? He made whatever excuse for not coming. Cal has now found out all these things about what Sinatra has done. He texts Robertson and asks her to come over, saying that, he's sorry for what happened earlier. She comes. He is kissing her and taking off her shoes, and they're having, a decent conversation. Not for long, though, because she feels like he just has her over there because of the fact that he wants to do something with her, where that's not the case for him. It's more than that for him, right? So he's taking off her shoes, and she flips on him, and she's like, I cannot keep coming over here acting like your hooker. She's about to leave when he blurts out that he'll take her shooting. There are guns in the basement of the arena. Just punch in a 4-digit code. The code is my inauguration day. She's annoyed because she just feels like he's using the guns as a way to pacify her. And he lets her know, like, when my presidency is over, I want to do all the things you want to do. I want to be in a romantic relationship with you. I want to stop having to act with I can't remember his wife's name. I'll get a divorce. We can do all the romantic crap like holding hands in public. He wants it all with her. And he tells her that he loves her, and she makes him crazy, and you can tell he's being extremely sincere. And her response to all of that is, call me when you're sober. And then she leaves. It is yet another person in the last few hours of his death that he deeply cares about, because he cares about Xavier, Cal, and her. And those are 3 people. I think he cared about Sinatra at one point too, that hurt him and let him down and were mad at him in the last few hours of his death. The actors, as I said, are doing their thing. The person who plays President Cal, and I cannot remember his name right now, is so convincing. And I actually found myself feeling sorry for him because he very much so is just sad. So we hear his father reading. Cities were consumed. Men were gathered around their blazing homes to look once more in each other's face. I think he said that the title of this thing is This is Darkness. Cal ends up sitting with his dad and talking about his mom and this bookmark. Now, I kept saying to myself, I don't know why they keep showing us this bookmark with this flower. They showed it multiple times in this episode, so I'm wondering if there's significance, and we find out there is. We find out that the courtship with his mom and dad was a secret, and flowers were their secret. So when they built this big secret, he decided that he wanted to keep it alive for her. The big secret being the dome, the underground city. He said that he built this for Cal, the grandkids, her, whatever. That's why he wanted to do this. Cal then looks at him and says, I did everything you asked of me in this life. My life was your chess piece, and I delivered. I lived as big as a life that a man could live, and I hated every effing moment of it. That's so sad, y'all. He never loved the life that he had. He hated it. But I did it for you. So does any of it? Have I ever made you proud? You hear that. You hear your son's heart crying out. And Cain says bluntly, you never did anything I didn't do for you. Then he picks up his book and he's reading again, ignoring his son who is obviously hurt. He is a jerk. Let's make no mistake about it. The man is a jerk to his son. A jerk. It's the last day. Very sad. So we see Cal in his bedroom, and Cal writes the number that we saw on the cigarette, along with making sure that he puts an X on it for Xavier. Xavier is heading home. She is standing outside. Presley is. She wants to tell her dad what happened, but before she could even say anything, he tells her about Billy, saying that Uncle Billy is gone. He's dead, and he needs her to go pack something for her and James and be ready to go. He needs her help. So Presley cries a little bit about Uncle Billy, but she understands this is serious and I gotta go pack. So she goes to pack. Next shot, we see Xavier go to Carl's, and he's like, I gotta call in that favor. And boy, do we later see that it's a big one. So we go from that to Jeremy, and he is fussing at his grandfather for upsetting Presley the way that he did, but his grandfather doesn't even remember it. His grandfather is still thinking that Jeremy is Cal, and he has a moment with him that absolves him, but I'm not sure if it makes Jeremy feel any better. He tells his grandson, who he thinks is his son, that he feels bad about the other night, that he was right about everything, that I can't remember this word that I wrote. I put Bane up here, but it's not Bane. He picked was Carl because it's a leader of men. Oh, that the name, because he's talking about the name that his wife wanted versus the name that he wanted, which he wanted the name Cal, and he chose Cal because Cal's name is a leader of men. He says, I'm not proud of anything I did, but I am so very proud of you, and I am so very sorry, son. This time, Jeremy doesn't correct him and say that it's him. He lets him think that he's talking to his son. He says, I'm sorry too, Dad. I'm sorry for what I said to you. I forgive you for everything. It is sad. It's a sad scene because none of them were able to fix this before Cal was killed. Cal's last conversation with his father was him brushing him off when all he wanted to know was he proud of him. And Jeremy never got to understand just how little of this that his father really knew. So Jeremy leaves the room. Cain begins reading as we get a montage of events and a description of what is happening currently in the poem, but it's much like what we see in the book. And then as he's reading it, he says, I saw her that night. I saw her. And that is when we get an image of Presley. Next thing you know, we see Presley. She walks into her room. She lifts up her mattress, and underneath is the freaking tablet. I did not see that coming. I put up here, little girl, what? With a whole bunch of T's. What? Like it's a lot of T's. How did you get the tablet? What did you see? Did someone give it to you? I didn't see that coming, and I am shocked. We next see Xavier, and he's standing outside looking up at this newly installed light. And he's staring into the newly installed light as Sinatra is looking on. People are walking and driving and sitting out having picnics and talking. And Sinatra and Xavier are looking at each other, but he doesn't. They're looking at each other the way that they show us the image, but of course he can't see her. He's just looking at this bright light. So he's looking at the lamp that's actually a security camera. And as he's doing that, we see Carl. Carl isn't just somebody who works in the tower. Carl knows some things. Carl knows how to move lights and write words and do all this other stuff, apparently, because Carl sneaks into the tower and fulfills the IOU that he has to do to Xavier. He uses the lights, y'all. And this is Sinatra as she sees the beginning of what he uses the lights to say. And a message goes across the dome. Now, I don't know how big the dome is. I don't know if it's in multiple places of the dome. I don't know the way the dome thing works. But either way, she can see it from where she's at. And the message says, they're lying to you. They let us know previously that Presley came over for that Wii to play game nights and stuff like that with Uncle Billy and Jane. Why did they make us know that? Is that how she got the tablet? Did Jane give it to her? Where did she take it from? I don't understand. Also, Jeremy always felt like his father was way too passive and that his father didn't fight back. And that's what the argument was that we saw at the end. And I feel like his father was killed before he could actually fight back. You guys, this one had a lot. So far on my list, there is no one. I don't know who to suspect. I have not put another name back on my list. As I said, unfortunately, I've taken Sinatra off. I've taken Robertson off. Gabriella still has a question mark. Okay, so we're going to put Gabriella. No, I'm not putting Gabriella either because I don't think that she knows. Because if she knew, I don't think she would have did the whole hand thing and then tried not to be heard thing and say she thinks she's being recorded. So I'm taking her off the list too. I don't have anybody on my list. Maybe the librarian, but I'm only saying that because Tulips and Cats got me looking at the librarian. What happened to the security officers that we saw before? And what happened to the security officer that did the whole imprint thing and was watching the cameras? I was talking to my best friend about this earlier. I want to know, like, how is it that he didn't see that the cameras were offline all this time when it's something that they have been doing over and over and over again? So maybe he should be added to my list too. I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think. Remember, don't spoil anything if you're past episode 5 because we don't want to spoil it for people who are still watching like myself. Anyways, until next time, hopefully, I think I'm gonna, well, no, I'm lying. I was gonna say I think I might come back with another one this week, but I got a very, very busy weekend and I'm gonna have to pre-record some stuff this week, so I'm not sure. We'll see. No promises, but I'm gonna try really, really hard to have another one up in the next few days. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for rocking with me. As I said earlier, if it's something that you notice that you want to put down below, feel free to do it. Like the video, please, as it helps the channel. Until next time.